A man walks into a bar and notices a jar filled with $10 bills. He asks the bartender what it's for, and the bartender explains, "We have a challenge here. If you can complete 3 tasks, you get all the money in the jar." Intrigued, the man asks what the tasks are. The bartender says, "First, you'll have to drink an entire gallon of hot sauce without crying. Second, there's a pit bull out back with a bad tooth, and you have to pull it out. Finally, our 90-year-old landlady upstairs hasn't had a good time in years. You need to give her an unforgettable night." The man considers the tasks and then asks about the prize money in the jar. The bartender replies, "Well, there's about $3,000 in there right now." The man thinks it over and says, "No way, I'm not going to do all that for $3,000. A few drinks later, the man asks the bartender, "Where's that jar again?" He looks at it and thinks about the money, then orders a gallon of hot sauce. He downs it without shedding a tear, his face turning bright red in the process. With determination, he stumbles to his feet and heads out to the back. The bar patrons hear growling, snarling, and yelping, followed by a long, painful scream. The man stumbles back into the bar, his clothes torn and covered in dirt and blood. He gasps for breath and asks, "So, where's that old lady with the bad tooth?" A man walks into a bar and orders a beer from the bartender. As the bartender goes to get the drink, the bowl of peanuts pipes up, "Excellent choice on the beer. A really great decision." Thinking he is hearing things, the man goes to the bathroom to wash his face. On his way there, the jukebox yells at him, "A goddamn beer? Horrible choice. Only thing worse is that disgusting excuse for a shirt you're wearing." Startled, the man rushes into the bathroom to freshen up, then returns to his seat at the bar. As the bartender brings back his beer, the man says to him, "I think I'm going crazy here. I thought I had the peanuts heaping praise on me here, and then the jukebox ridiculed me on my way to the bathroom. Did I imagine that?" The bartender solemnly shook his head. "No, sir. My apologies. The peanuts are complimentary, but the jukebox is out of order." 2 men are walking their dogs, a Doberman and a Chihuahua, when they see a restaurant. They're pretty hungry, so they decide to head in for a bite to eat. Unfortunately, they see a sign out front that says, "No dogs allowed." The man with the Doberman says, "I know what to do. Just follow my lead." He throws on a pair of sunglasses and walks in. The waiter tells him, "I'm sorry, sir, we don't allow dogs here." The man says, "Oh, you don't understand. I'm blind, and this is my guide dog." "A Doberman for a guide dog?" the waiter asks, skeptical. "Yes," the man replies. "Dobermans are very loyal. They're easy to train and protective, too. They're born for the job." The waiter sighs and leads the man to a table. The second man, excited by this idea, throws on his sunglasses and walks in. The waiter tells him, "I'm sorry, sir, we don't allow dogs here." The man says, "Oh, you don't understand. I'm blind, and this is my guide dog." "A Chihuahua for a guide dog?" the waiter asks. "A Chihuahua?" the man asks. "They gave me a Chihuahua?" A lone cowboy nobody knew walks into a mining town bar. He orders 2 drinks, which he downs slowly. When he was done with his drinks, he paid the bartender and walked out to see that his horse with all his stuff was missing. He turns around, walks back in the bar, pulls his guns from his holster, and shoots them in the air. "Whichever one of you cow done stole my horse better have it back by the time I finish my next drink. Otherwise, I'm going to have to do what I did in Texas, and trust me, I don't want to ever do that again." He walks back to the bar, gets another drink, and slowly drinks it. The people in the bar started murmuring, talking amongst themselves, and looking at the stranger with fear in their eyes. The stranger finishes the drink and walks out, and his horse is there where he left it. He got up on it when the bartender and the bar patrons ran out after him. The bartender said, Mister, we are sorry for what happened, but please tell us what happened in Texas after somebody stole your horse. The stranger looked at him and said, I had to walk home. A doctor at a mental health facility decided to take his patients on a special outing to a baseball game. To prepare, he spent weeks teaching them how to respond to his commands. On the big day, everything went perfectly. As the national anthem began, the doctor called out, "Stand up, nuts!" and the patients all stood. When it ended, he shouted, "Sit down, nuts!" and they obediently returned to their seats. Later, when a home run was hit, he hollered, "Cheer, nuts!" and the patients erupted into applause. When the umpire made a terrible call, the doctor yelled, "Boo, nuts!" and they booed enthusiastically. Confident everything was under control, the doctor decided to grab a hot dog and a beer, leaving his assistant in charge. But when he returned, chaos had broken out. Fans were shouting, fights were breaking out, and popcorn was flying everywhere. Panicked, he found his assistant and demanded, "What happened? Everything was fine when I left." The assistant shrugged and said, "I don't know, Doc." Some guy walked by and shouted, "Peanuts!" A stunning young model boarded a plane to New York with a ticket for the economy section. As she walked past the economy seats, she caught sight of the spacious, luxurious first-class section. Without hesitation, she slipped into the last empty first-class seat and settled in. A flight attendant noticed and checked her ticket. "Excuse me, miss, but your seat is in economy." The blonde smiled confidently and replied, "I'm a famous model, and I've never had this problem before. I'm sitting here all the way to New York." Frustrated, the flight attendant informed the captain, who came back to address the situation. "Miss, I'm sorry, but your ticket is for economy. You'll have to move." Once again, the blonde responded, "I'm a famous model, and I'm staying right here." The captain sighed and returned to the cockpit to brainstorm a solution with his co-pilot. The co-pilot chuckled and said, "Don't worry, I've got this. I used to date someone just like her." He walked up to the blonde, leaned in, and whispered something in her ear. Immediately, she got up, smiled, hugged the co-pilot, and walked back to her seat in economy without another word. Curious, the flight attendant and captain asked the co-pilot what he had said. He grinned and replied, "I just told her first-class seats aren't going to New York." A man is sitting alone at a bar, just staring at his drink. He stays like that for half an hour, deep in thought. Suddenly, a loud, troublemaking truck driver steps up next to him, grabs the drink, and drinks it all down in one gulp. The man, visibly upset, begins to cry. The truck driver, feeling guilty, says, "Hey, come on, man. I was just joking. I'll buy you another drink. I can't stand seeing a man cry." The man shakes his head, still in distress. "No, it's not that," he says. "Today has been the worst day of my life. First, I woke up late for work. My boss was furious and fired me. Then, when I left the building, I found out my car was stolen. The police said they couldn't do anything. So I took a cab home, but when I got out, I realized I left my wallet and credit cards in the cab. The driver just drove off without a word. And then, when I finally get home, I walk in and find my wife in bed with the gardener. I'm so devastated, I leave and come straight here." The truck driver, shocked, says, "Man, I'm really sorry, but it sounds like you had the worst day ever. So why are you crying over your drink?" The man looks at him and says, "Because just when I was thinking about ending it all, you came along and drank my poison."
An 80-year-old lady was being interviewed by a local news station because she had just gotten married for the 4th time. The interviewer began to ask her questions about her life, why she has decided to get remarried at 80, and for some information about her new husband. "My husband is a funeral director," she answered. "That's interesting," the reporter replied. The reporter was then curious about her previous 3 husbands and what their professions had been. After a few minutes of reflection, the woman smiled and answered proudly. She explained that in her 20s she married a banker, in her 40s a circus ringmaster, a preacher in her 60s, and now in her 80s a funeral director. The reporter was unsure how to process her answer and then asked why she married 4 men with such different lives and career choices. The woman once again smiled and explained, "I married the first for the money, the second for the show, the third to prepare myself, and the 4th to go."
It was many years ago, on the embarrassing day when a young woman with a baby in her arms entered his butcher shop and confronted him with the news that the baby was his and asked what he was going to do about it. Finally, he offered to provide her with free meat until the boy was 16. She agreed. He had been counting the years off on his calendar, and one day the teenager who had been collecting the meat each week came into the shop and said, "I'll be 16 tomorrow." "I know," said the butcher with a smile. "I've been counting too. Tell your mother, would you take this parcel of meat home, that it is the last free meat she'll get, and watch the expression on her face." When the boy arrived home, he told his mother. The woman nodded and said, "Son, go back to the butcher and tell him I have also had free bread, free milk, and free groceries for the last 16 years, and watch the expression on his face." 3 people, 2 men and 1 woman, and their dogs are in the vet's waiting room. The first man's dog asks the second man's dog what he's there for. "They are putting me down." "Oh no," says the first dog. "Why?" The second dog says, "Well, you see, I've been chasing the postman for years. Yesterday I finally caught him and bit him. So I'm going to be put to sleep." The second dog says, "Well, my master just completely remodeled the inside of his house. I didn't like it because my scent wasn't anywhere anymore. So when he went to bed last night, I pissed on everything I could find to get my scent back. This morning my master found out what I had done, so he's putting me to sleep also." The third dog said, "This is my master's new girlfriend. She runs around the house all the time without her clothes. This makes me very horny. So this morning, as she was getting out of the shower, she bent over to wipe out the water on the floor. I couldn't stand it anymore, so I jumped on her and gave it to her good." The other dogs say, "So that's why they are putting you to sleep?" "No," says the dog. "She is bringing me here to get my toenails clipped." On a windy day, a rabbi was walking along when a sudden gust blew his hat clean off his head. The rabbi chased after it, but the wind was too strong, carrying the hat farther and farther away. A young man who wasn't Jewish saw what was happening and sprinted after the hat. He caught it and brought it back to the rabbi. Grateful, the rabbi handed him $20 and blessed him. The young man, feeling lucky with the rabbi's blessing, decided to head to the racetrack. He placed the entire $20 on a horse named Top Hat, which was 100 to 1 long shot. To his astonishment, Top Hat won. Flush with cash, he decided to keep going. In the next race, he noticed a horse named Bowler at 30 to 1 odds. Encouraged by his streak, he bet all his winnings on Bowler, and sure enough, Bowler won too. That evening, he excitedly told his father the story. So, asked his father, "Did you bring the money home?" "Well,
No, the young man admitted sheepishly. In the final race, I saw a horse named Chateau. Since chateau means hat in French, I thought it was a sign. I bet everything on him, but he lost. The father smacked his forehead. You fool! Hat in French is chapeau, not chateau. So who ended up winning? The young man sighed. A long shot. Some Spanish Horace named Sombrero.
It was an early morning at the airport as Mark helped his wife, Lisa, unload her luggage. She was heading to Spain for a 2-week company training session, and he was already dreading the loneliness at home. Before she headed to the departure gate, Lisa smiled at him and asked, "Anything special you'd like me to bring back for you?" Mark chuckled, and with a mischievous grin teased, "How about a Spanish girl?" Lisa simply raised an eyebrow, smirked, and boarded her flight without another word. 2 weeks later, when Lisa landed back home, Mark was waiting eagerly at the arrivals gate. He greeted her with a warm hug and asked, "So, honey, how's the trip?" "Oh, it was wonderful. Spain is amazing," she replied with a playful glint in her eye. Mark grinned. "And what about my present?" Lisa tilted her head. "Present? What present?" Mark laughed, "And you know, the one I asked for, my Spanish girl." Lisa sighed dramatically, then leaned in close and whispered, "Well, I did what I could. Now we'll just have to wait a few months to see if it's a boy or a girl."
One evening, a husband called home to his wife. "Honey," he said, trying to sound casual, "I've been invited to go on a fishing trip to Canada with my boss and a few of his friends. We'll be gone for a week. This could be my chance to get that promotion I've been working for." His wife raised an eyebrow, but stayed silent. "Can you please pack enough clothes for a week and set up my fishing rod and tackle box? Oh, and make sure to pack my new blue silk pajamas, too." The wife smelled something fishy, and it wasn't the catch of the day. But being the dutiful wife, she did exactly as he asked. A week later, the husband returned home looking tired but happy. "Welcome home, dear," his wife greeted him sweetly. "So, did you catch many fish?" "Oh, yes," he said proudly. "Plenty of salmon, some bluegill, and even a few swordfish." Then, with a puzzled look, he asked, "By the way, why didn't you pack my new blue silk pajamas like I asked?" His wife smiled innocently and replied, "I did. They're in your fishing box."
A man heads out for the day, starting with a game of pool with a friend. While playing, he hears a Chinese man in the background shouting, "Sukiyaki! Sukiyaki!" He brushes it off and later heads to the golf course. Mid-game, he hears another man, this time on a different hole, yelling the same thing, "Sukiyaki! Sukiyaki!" Now he's puzzled. What could it mean? That evening, he ends up at a brothel. In bed with an Asian woman, things heat up, and suddenly she starts shouting, "Sukiyaki! Sukiyaki!" He can't take the mystery anymore and asks, "I've been hearing that all day. What does it mean?" She looks at him, rolls her eyes, and says, "It means in the hole, stupid." A couple was invited to a swanky Halloween party by a family friend, in which all attendees were required to wear a mask. The wife got a terrible headache and told her husband to go to the party alone and make sure to say hello to her family. He, being a devoted husband, protested, but she argued and said she was going to take some aspirin and go to bed, and there was no need for his good time to be spoiled by not going. So he took his costume, and away he went. The wife, after sleeping soundly for about an hour, woke without pain, and as it was still early, decided to go to the party. As her husband didn't know what her costume was, she thought she would have some fun by watching her husband to see how he acted when she was not with him. So she joined the party and soon spotted her husband in his costume, cavorting around on the dance floor, dancing with every nice chick he could, a copying little feel here and a little kiss there. his wife went up to him, being a rather seductive babe herself. He left his new partner high and dry and devoted his time to her. She let him go as far as he wished, naturally, since he was her husband. After more drinks, he finally whispered a little proposition in her ear, and she agreed. So off they went to one of the cars and had passionate intercourse in the back seat. Just before unmasking at midnight, she slipped away and went home and put the costume away and got into bed, wondering what kind of explanation he would make up for his outrageous behavior. She was sitting up reading when he came in, so she asked what kind of time he had. "Ugh, the same old day. You know I never have a good time when you're not there." Then she asked, "Did you dance much?" He replied, "I'll tell you, I never even danced one dance. While I got there, I met Pete, Bill around, and some other guys, so we went into the spare room and played poker all evening." "You must have looked really silly wearing that costume playing poker all night," she said with unashamed sarcasm. "Actually, I gave my costume to your brother. Apparently, he had the time of his life."
Last week, we took some friends to a new restaurant called Steve's Place and noticed that the waiter who took our order carried a spoon in his shirt pocket. It seemed a little strange. When the busboy brought our water and utensils, I observed that he also had a spoon in his shirt pocket. Then I looked around and saw that all the staff had spoons in their pockets. When the waiter came back to serve our soup, I inquired, "Why the spoon?" "Well," he explained, "the restaurant's owner hired Accenture to revamp all of our processes. After several months of analysis, they concluded that the spoon was the most frequently dropped utensil. It represents a drop frequency of approximately 3 spoons per table per hour. If our personnel are better prepared, we can reduce the number of trips back to the kitchen and save 15 man-hours per shift." As luck would have it, I dropped my spoon, and he replaced it with his spare. I'll get another spoon next time I go to the kitchen, instead of making an extra trip to get it right now. I was impressed. I also noticed that there was a string hanging out of the waiter's fly. Looking around, I saw that all of the waiters had the same string hanging from their flies. So before he walked off, I asked the waiter, "Excuse me, but can you tell me why you have that string right there?" "Oh, certainly." Then he lowered his voice. "Not everyone is so observant, but that consulting firm I mentioned also learned that we can save time in the restroom. By tying the string to the tip of you-know-what, we can pull it out without touching it and eliminate the need to wash our hands, shortening the time spent in the restroom by 57%. I asked quietly, "After you get it out, how do you put it back?" "Well," he whispered, "I don't know about the others, but I use the spoon."
A group of guys are on their way to a party, but couldn't quite remember the address to the house. "I'm sure this is the one," said the driver. "Well, I have got to go to the bathroom so bad," replied one of the others. "I'll go knock on the door and check. If it's the wrong house, at least I'll get to a toilet." So he gets out and walks to the front door. He rings it. Once. No answer. He rings it again. Still no answer. So he thinks this is a big house, a big party. Maybe the party is outside in the backyard. So he walks around the house to the back. There was no one out there either. As he approached the back door, he was surprised to find it unlocked and open. There was obviously no one home, so he figured he'd just quietly run inside real quick and use their bathroom. No one would know. So he goes inside, but he can't find the bathroom anywhere. So he quickly ran up the stairs and searched, till finally, as he opened the door to a small room, he was amazed to find a golden toilet. He had never seen anything like it, but remembering that he was in a stranger's house and that they could at any time return home, he quickly did his business and walked out. As he got in the car, he excitedly told his friends of the amazing golden toilet.
They laughed at disbelief at his crazy tale. They pulled out of the driveway arguing about it. They argued the whole way to the party. A couple of hours later, on the way home from the party, they drive past the house with the golden toilet, and the guy insists on stopping so he can prove to his friends that these people really did have a golden toilet. So they agree to take it out. So they all walk up to the front door and ring the doorbell, and a woman answers the door. "Excuse me, ma'am, but could you please let me show my friends here your golden toilet? They don't believe me." "So you're the guy," the woman replies, and then yells to her husband in the house, "Honey, here's the guy who pooped in your tuba."
Man and his wife are sitting down to dinner. Ringling Brothers is coming to town this week, she said. The poster says they have a dancing bear. I always wanted to see one of those. Maybe next year, says the man. Work's really busy this week. The next night at dinner, the man can barely sit down before his wife starts talking excitedly. The neighbors went to the show today and said the tightrope walkers were doing the hokey pokey right up there on the wire. Can you even imagine? "I'd love to take you," said the man, "but the boss will be mad if I don't get this project finished." The following night, the wife gushed about how the paper boy told her about how a dozen clowns have popped out of this tiny car and did the can and bloomers, and it was about the funniest thing he ever saw. The man was starting to feel a little bad that he couldn't take her, but work was work. The night after, the wife was downcast. "My book club said last night the lion tamer and the girl who rides the elephants did a waltz, and it was just perfectly romantic," she said. "It feels like we're the only people in town who haven't seen the show yet, and they only have one more tomorrow. Oh, please, can't we go?" The man thinks it over and decides that this might be the only opportunity for them to see such a thing, and maybe work can wait. He calls his friend to ask him to cover for him at work the next day, and the man and his wife go to bed excited about seeing the show. The next day at work, the boss notices the man is out and inquires about it with the friend. Says the friend, "He can't come in today due to 4 unseen circus dances."
A woman decides to have a facelift for her 50th birthday. She spends $15,000 and looks sensational. On her way home, she stops at a newsstand to buy a newspaper. Before leaving, she says to the clerk, "I hope you don't mind my asking, but how old do you think I am?" "About 32, is the reply. "Nope, I'm exactly 50, the woman says happily. A little while later, she goes into McDonald's and asks the counter girl the very same question. The girl replies, "I'd guess about 29. With a big smile, the woman replies, "Nope, I'm 50. Now she's feeling really good about herself. She stops at a candy shop on her way down the street. She goes up to the counter to get some mints and asks the assistant the same burning question. The clerk responds, "Oh, I'd say 30. Again, she proudly responds, "I'm 50, but thank you." While waiting for the bus to go home, she asks an old man leaning next to her the same question. He replies, "Lady, I'm 78, and my eyesight is going. Although, when I was young, there was a surefire way to tell how old a woman was. It sounds very forward, but it requires you to let me put my hands under your bra. Then, and only then, I can tell you exactly how old you are." They wait in silence on the empty street until her curiosity gets the better of her. She finally blurts out, "What the hell? Go ahead." He slips both of his hands under her blouse and begins to feel around very slowly and carefully. He bounces and weighs each breast, and he gently pinches each nipple. He pushes her breasts together and rubs them against each other. After a couple of minutes of this, she says, Okay, how old am I?" He completes one last squeeze of her breasts, removes his hands, and says, "Ma'am, you are 50. Stunned and amazed, the woman says, "That was incredible. How could you tell?" I was behind you at McDonald's.